Coming to you from the Strings and Things studio in Ventura, California, I'm Anne.
I'm Kaity.
And I'm Karin.
And this is the Strings Unraveled Book Club.
Woohoo!
Hi, everybody.
Yay.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to March.
Hey, March.
I like March.
You do? What do you like about March, Karin?
It's not as cold, but it's not hot yet generally, except I'm a liar because it was 90 today, but, and muggy. But I don't know. In March, I feel like getting out in the yard and planting things and having a garden. I wish I could have chickens, but I have to get a permit for that. And I don't know if I'm ready. No, you have to go down and pay your money. I mean, as long as you pay your money, that's really what they care about.
Right. I mean, now's the time to do it. It's get your own eggs.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a new knitter.
Is it really cheaper? Is it really cheaper to have them? By the time you buy feed and you have we have to build the coop. We have to
Depends
get a
on how many
permit
chickens
from the
you have.
HOA. You can have up to 6 by law without having to get a special thing.
I think 6
without having to get a license
is not worth it. My sister has like 18 chickens and she has so many eggs.
Jeez.
Which is great because
That's
then
awesome.
we've got eggs, when
fresh eggs are so good.
They're so good. No, I know. It's I am thankful that my nephews do the work to raise chickens that I can, benefit from.
Do they do it just for fun, or is there like a 4-H thing to it, or?
No, they just do it for fun, and it's part of their homeschool dealio. So they are in charge of the chickens and cleaning and collecting the eggs and make sure they get fed and all that stuff.
What happens when the chickens get too old? Is there an emotional? Because I feel like there's going to be an emotional bonding, and then I can't eat the chicken. I would eat a chicken, but not the one that I've raised.
You probably don't want to eat an old chicken. Like, it's not going to be worth it. But no, I mean, you gotta be a little tough. It's not a pet, which I'm sure is hard, but they live outside. Yeah. You're not hanging out with them every day. I mean, maybe you are. I don't know.
No. Well, you do because you have to feed them. You have to make sure, like out here, you have to have a mister so they don't get too hot.
Yeah. They are a lot of work, especially where it is hot outside, because they are temperamental little guys and they don't like the heat.
Mister? I thought you meant like a rooster.
A Mr. Chicken. No, you don't want a Mr. Chicken if you're getting eggs.
Am I? Well, you know what? It's still spelled the same. So it doesn't help to spell it.
What are you guys reading on tonight or working on?
I'm knitting a new potato. This is a Musselburgh that I just cast on for yesterday. This yarn, I believe you gave me, Anne. It has been in my stash for a number of years.
Ooh.
I thought that from Europe for you.
That's what I thought. I thought it came from like Italy or something.
Oh, it's perfect.
No, it was I think it was from Switzerland. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah.
I think it came from Geneva.
It's been a nice option for this hat. It's a fingering weight and it's a single ply, but it's got those like long color gradients, and this colorway is called, I think it's called Tiger's Eye, and it's like gold and orange and brown and almost like a little bit of like a navy blue in there too, which is kind of cool. So I saw it in my stash and I thought this is
for Musselburgh.
It'll make a good Musselburgh. So that's what I'm doing. I just got past my I'm excited about it. I just got past the increases, so now I'm just cruising.
Nice.
What are you working on?
Oh. Well, I got through one of the garlands, part of it. So I got the first part of a garland. Once I get the second one done, then I will do the inside. I do have most of the ends of this one woven in. You can see where I didn't on this one, and the other one, it could take a whole evening just to weave in those ends. But then this center will be done, and then I have the other garland that I'm working on.
Is this a blanket?
Yes, this is the wallflower blanket.
Nice.
Look
Very
at
cool.
my colors.
Oh, so pretty, all lined up in that box.
Yeah, and I got blues. You can't really tell because of but there's dark, like chocolate brown and various blues. You got to have that blue, you know. That's my blue. There's navy, mostly in the bottom.
You're not using felted tweed. It looks like you're using something.
It is
else.
felted tweed.
It is.
It's all felted.
Very pretty.
It's all felted tweed.
I'm seeing Wool & Co. labels in there.
That's where. Okay, so that was a card. That's so. So I bought some, and I got this great 20% discount. And then I went to buy some more, and I couldn't understand why the code wasn't working. I'm like, well, whatever. It's discounted. It's fine. And then I got it home, and I'm putting it away. I'm like, oh, these are two different stores. So no wonder the coupon from one store doesn't work in the other. Duh. I bought it at two different places.
There you go.
I was like, oh, okay. I guess I didn't even worry about dye lots or anything because they're so apart. There's so many colors.
It doesn't matter for something like that.
It's really lovely to work with. This felted tweed. I get to the end and I just break it, break a tail off, so I don't have to. I haven't really used scissors at all the whole time. I can't.
That's funny.
If you hear anything, my cat is insisting on being part of this situation. So,
she's pretty.
With you.
I know, because she's desperate. Because James just got home, but he is like taking a shower, settling in. Oh my gosh, she just laid down on my lap. So she's hoping James will come in and snuggle her. So she's taking what she can get right now. Sorry.
I guess if I'm close to Katie, I might get close to James.
Yeah, except she's doing that thing where she lays on your lap and she like makes biscuits, but the claws are like digging into my leg. But
you call it I call it kneading dough, but my husband also calls it making biscuits.
Yeah, she's making biscuits on me. I'm not going to stop her because she's so cute.
No. You got a cat on your lap. That's where you live now.
Yep. I can't go anywhere.
Every night my cat comes over and I've got crochet in my hand and I say, no, you can't be in my lap tonight. But he just very sweetly climbs up and leans right here and snuggles against my neck. And what am I going to do? I got to put the crochet down.
Yeah, you can't.
You have to care for the cat.
Priorities.
Every night I say no, but this is the lie I tell myself because I know I'm going to cave. I'm going to cave. He's just too cute.
So your cat is a misogynist. He does not believe no means no.
Well, I could insist, but he's so freaking adorable.
Yeah, and I've never. Are you gonna say no? No.
What do I do when he leans back and is like cuddled like a baby with his belly up? Completely feeling safe, and I'm like,
gotta have your priorities straight, Karin.
I do. It's got to be the cat.
I mean, obviously, you get the spritzer bottle out. Come on.
No, that's so mean.
Oh, we do use the spritzer bottle, but that is for clawing the furniture or biting my feet. But most of the time, even that's just you're off the or if he tries to bite me, here's the other line I draw. When he starts taking a bath and licking his butt, you can't be on my chest when you and
go somewhere else and do that. You don't need me
go
for that. Go
somewhere else and do that. So he goes over to my husband, who says, "I'll take him no matter however I can get him."
You guys seen the giant like brontosaurus scratching post?
No.
It's like as big as an armchair and then has a huge tall neck. There's some very fun footage of cats like parkouring off of it.
Oh my gosh.
Climbing the neck.
That's hilarious.
It was pretty cool.
Oh, I am looking that up.
I'm pretty sure it was like it was a brontosaurus, not a giraffe. Because it was like, I definitely remember the long neck.
That's hysterical.
Am working on something that is so comforting.
Yeah.
One of my beginning knitters was like, I think going forward, I'm just going to do very simple, minimalistic things. I want to make this sweater that I saw someone on an airplane wearing, and she was able to like search it up on the internet and used her Google Foo. And she shows me this beautiful sweater, and it is very clearly brioche knit.
Very
And,
simple.
That was like the most challenging technique you could show me.
Yeah.
I had a couple of contrasting colors of yarn. I'm like, let me show you. And just watching me do the cast on, they were like,
This is
no.
magic.
And then I did a few rows to show how the colors line up. So
how cool it is! Yeah.
Well, this is later. I found Lion Brand Ferris wheel, and I have a color that's like
those are
orange,
pretty,
burgundy, and hot pink, and then another color that is like real just dark, like navy and burgundy and forest green. So one side is the dark knit whales popping forward, and the other side is those light citrusy colors popping forward. And it's actually kind of similar to what she was showing me. Hers was like the light ribs almost look like a camel color and cream marled yarn, and then with like a black or something behind it. Very pretty, but I was like, here is the voodoo that you want to do.
I haven't knit brioche in forever.
It's fun.
It is so fun. I love it.
I'm feeling like just very soothed by it. There's some other things I should really be working on, but this has just been very nice.
Sometimes you just need a sheep and dog.
Yeah, sheep and dog.
The dog.
I call it bark and burp. Yeah.
I was talking about you need a project that's like the dog and the sheep cuddle. Sheep cuddles. Okay, sometimes you just need a sheep cuddle.
Yes.
A sheep cuddle.
You brioche knit and brioche purl. So the bark I was associating with the barking and the
got it. Yeah. Barking and burping.
Do sheep burp? I wonder.
Probably.
I don't know. Maybe.
Who knows?
If this was the regular podcast, the title would be "Would Sheep Do Sheep Burp?" But this is book club, so I can't call it that. But honorary title of this is "Do Sheep Burp?"
Do sheep burp.
Awesome. I love it.
So we read The Parable of the Sower. I love this book. So when I say this, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It was a real
Thank you for apologizing.
I kind of knew what I was doing from the start because.
What did I miss?
Okay, well, let me start over. What'd you guys think of the book?
This book was difficult.
Yes.
This was a hard month.
Yeah.
In general, I think for me, and this book reading on top of it was like I would have given up, except I really didn't want to. Like, I wanted to read it. I wanted to honor what it was, and I wanted to get through it. And it's not like it was that long, but it was just it was a bad combination for me of things going on and
the state of the world.
Things going on personally, things going on state of the world, and this book together made for a bit of anxiety-inducing couple of weeks.
Yeah. Kind of the trifecta of stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know I was thinking about it earlier. I'm like, will this be a sorry, not sorry? No, I'm really sorry to take you guys to this headspace when it has been a hard time.
Yeah.
But Octavia E. Butler served us something beautiful in this first of a duology. So we read The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I have a plot that came from, I'm going to read the one from Wikipedia. There are yes, Karen's got 2 copies. I know you mentioned in our regular podcast.
This is the graphic novel.
How do you like the graphic novel?
I like it, but I'm glad I read the regular first, because this has Octavia's blessing, but it's not necessarily it's a retelling of Octavia's story with her blessing. So it does have it, but instead of words, it's conveyed in pictures, and I do think I was glad to read it first versus see the story. But this is a really good to have to review what I already read.
I'm not sure that I want to see some of the things described, though.
No.
It's not graphic. I mean, it's called a graphic novel, but it's not necessarily graphic-gory.
Mm-hmm.
A lot is done in shadow and, just silhouette outline. Yeah, so it's... But I liked it for the depth of story that was presented. I'm always a fan of dystopian. It was in the beginning. It was hard to disconnect from the world to get into the story. And if the story hadn't been set like in LA and California, places that we know that made it more real,
I was very close to home.
Right, it's set up in a made-up place, which I think by the way they describe their distance from Los Angeles and proximity to Ventura County, I want to say it's a made-up place called Robledo, but it feels Calabasas-esque.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's a book that came out originally in 1993. I'll read the plot that is on Wikipedia. Beginning in 2024, when society in the United States has grown unstable due to climate change, growing wealth inequality, and corporate greed, Parable Sower takes the form of a journal kept by Lauren Oya Olamina, an African-American teenager. Her mother abused drugs during her pregnancy and left Lauren with hyper-empathy or sharing, the uncontrollable ability to feel the sensations she witnesses in others, particularly abundant pain in her world. Lauren grows up in the remnants of a gated community in Robledo, California, 20 miles from Los Angeles, where she and her neighbors struggle, but are separate from the abject poverty of the world outside. Outside the community are numerous homeless and mutilated individuals who resent the community members for their relative affluence. Public services such as police or firefighters are untrustworthy, exploiting their positions for profit and making little effort to help. Lauren's father, a Baptist pastor and college professor, holds the community together through Baptist religion, mutual aid, and careful use of resources, such as making bread from acorns. However, Lauren is increasingly certain that despite all efforts, society will continue to deteriorate and the community will no longer be safe. Lauren secretly prepares to travel north, as many do, in search of rare paid jobs. The newly elected radical authoritarian President Donner loosens labor protections, creating a rise in company towns owned by foreign businesses. Lauren privately develops her own belief system based on the belief that God is change, is the only lasting truth, and that humanity should shape God in order to aid themselves. She comes to call this religion Earthseed. Lauren's younger half-brother Keith rebelliously runs away to live outside the walls of the community. For a time, he survives by joining a group of ruthless thieves who value him for his rare literacy, but he is eventually found dead after torture. Later, Lauren's father disappears while leaving the community for work and is accepted as dead. In 2027, when Lauren is 18, the community's security is breached in an organized attack by outsiders. Most of the community is destroyed, looted, and murdered, including Lauren's family. She travels north disguised as a man with Harry Butler and Zara Moss, two survivors from her community. Society outside the community walls has reverted to chaos due to resource scarcity and poverty. U.S. states have become akin to city-states with strict borders. Money still has value, but travelers constantly fear attacks for resources or pyromaniac drug users, cannibals, and wild dogs. Interracial relationships are stigmatized, women fear sexual assault, and slavery has returned in the form of indentured servitude. Lauren gathers people to protect along her journey and begins to share the Earthseed religion, which is developing into a collection of texts titled Earthseed, the Books of the Living. She believes that humankind's destiny is to travel beyond the deteriorating Earth and live on other planets, forcing humankind into its adulthood, and that Earthseed is preparation for this destiny. Lauren begins a relationship with Bankole, an older doctor who joins the group and agrees to marry him. Bankole takes the group to the land he owns in Northern California, where the group settles and Lauren founds the first Earthseed community, Acorn. And the novel concludes with an excerpt from the Bible, the parable of the sower, which is sort of how she comes up with her understanding of taking seed as humanity is very parallel to the actual biblical verse of the parable of the sower, which we can read later. So I have a wealth of questions. I have some from a library, from Durango Library, and then I have some from the back of the book.
Cool.
Lauren has hyperempathy syndrome, an illness that gives her the delusion that she feels both pain and pleasure. The delusion. That she feels both pain and pleasure of those around her. Do you think it is significant that it is a congenital disease she contracted because her mother was a drug abuser? How has this illness made Lauren different from those around her? Why was she unable to tell anyone about it? Why do you suppose it is significant to the story that she has this illness? So there were a lot of questions there. Let's start with why in this story is it significant that it came from her mother?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can pinpoint why it's important where it came from.
I do think there's a reason. It comes down through the shared trauma of African slaves. You know, that generational trauma that comes through the blood, that comes through the bones, somehow comes through the soul. Because there is another family where both mom and dad and the baby have it later on in her journey.
No.
So I don't think, No?
That's not quite, you're right. There are other characters we meet later, but they're not a family yet.
Oh, they're not a family.
A daughter and a mother and a daughter. And they do get together, but their children aren't related.
I thought there was a couple with a baby that had it.
Yeah, but they're not sharers. The first sharers that she meets are, can't remember the woman's name, but the Let's see if there's
of course, her father was African American too, so I'm not sure why he didn't have it and why the mother didn't have it. Well, it's possible that the mother had it. Yeah, the mother had it. Not all trauma gets passed through, but it's kind of what I took it to mean.
I think you're probably really right that Octavia was probably making a social commentary on like how drugs have been seeded into the African American community and what the costs of that poisoning and exposure has caused. I think that's really astute, but that is very likely what she was trying to illustrate. And I think that's a really interesting observation, that the actual like generational trauma being characterized by an outside injury of drug use, marking this child and marking her future. I think that's a really like interesting point. And it doesn't touch everyone the same way, because the like bringing up that in the future we meet the parent and child mixes that have them. The woman who had many children, she had like, was it 3 boys or 2 boys and a girl?
I think she had 3 boys and a girl.
Yeah, that one of her boys did not have it.
Right.
And our main character's siblings did not have it.
Well, they're half siblings from another mother.
Halves. That's it.
Yeah, I think that I wasn't ever clear on Keith. If Keith was Corey's first child with her dad, or if he was a half brother. I think that Lauren is the only child of her mother and their shared father, and that Keith must be the oldest of Corey's children.
Yeah, I think all the boys were Corey's, and
Yeah.
Lauren was the only one that came from her mother's side.
Got it.
How does this illness make Lauren different from those around her? I've been thinking about this one, that like she has to be mindful of what she does to other people, because she like so many people get to, and like it fully fits into her, like the verse she often shares with people when she first exposes them to Earthseed is something about like your change, like everything you touch, you change everything you touch, and everything you change touches you. Something like that.
Something like that.
And so that's like how she has to live every day, every minute.
And I think there's a point when, I don't remember who she's talking to, but he says, like, oh, it would be nice if everybody did that, because then people would be like nicer to each other if they knew that if they could experience each other's pain, they would hurt each other less. And then she's like, well, no, because it shouldn't be a threat, you know, that this thing that I have shouldn't be the thing that keeps people responsible. Like, you shouldn't have to physically feel another person's pain in order to realize that it's not, you know, that whatever you're doing is bad. Like, that you should just know that those things are bad to do, you know?
Yep.
So well, I think that a lot of people would be like, well, it would be nice if we could, you know, all experience that, at least for a time. You know, I don't think it would hurt anything if we all could experience each other's, you know, sharing each other's pain and pleasure and things like that. But, you know, I think that it sets her apart in that she is more aware of, like you said, like the things that she can and can't do. It's more of a hindrance and a weakness in this particular setting, because I mean, physical pain is dangerous because it can cripple you, and then all of a sudden bad things are happening. Yeah, I sort of see it as sort of like it reminded me of like The Shining, you know, like you have the sharing, but this seems way worse.
Right. Yeah. Why is she unable to tell anyone about it?
I think because everybody, including her, would make her, would see it as a weakness.
Well, and if they thought there was a weakness, it would make her target.
Yeah, that they could exploit.
Because there's points where she feels it enough that she passes out. If they can inflict enough pain to somebody else, they can. If she's got the gun, all they have to do is inflict pain on somebody else to make her pass out, to take it over. So it's.
Well, she reminds us that like Keith, her brother, who she believes is the closest to a I can't remember if she thinks of him as a psychopath or a sociopath.
Yeah.
And she does mention when she's sharing with Harry, like, how come nobody knew about this in our whole community? And she's like, only my family knew. And Keith used to test me in some tricky ways or something like that. Yeah. So you can only imagine
the torture he put her under.
Yeah.
Or that other people would.
Yeah. Because her father, like, I mean, he instilled the fear of God into all of them about it, but he really taught her how to be tough and hide what she was feeling. So, so she has a pretty high tolerance, literally, when she's around other people. So he may have even toughened her up a little bit more, but you can imagine what he tried out that she could tolerate.
Yeah. Yeah, and it gets really yucky, like, later on when we get into the whole, like, indentured servitude slavery part of it, when it's like, when they're talking about how masters will pay extra or want sharers as their, it's it's
well, see,
so gross.
She really leaves that to our imagination.
Yeah.
And I'm not, like, I don't want to think about what exactly that would mean. Like, why would you pay extra for that? Because you don't directly benefit, but maybe you could hurt someone more,
right?
Knowing that vulnerability in them. I don't know.
But there are people that are willing to participate in trafficking. That's the same kind of mindset that doesn't have a problem with that kind of demeaning. I mean, they don't see, they see them as product, not as people.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're probably more easily manipulated or overpowered as a sharer.
Why does Joe react so negatively to Lauren's concerns about being better prepared as... Oh, sorry. Why? I skipped one of the parts of the previous question. Why do you suppose it's significant to the story that she has this illness? I mean, I think it's what gives her the impetus to think about things differently.
Yeah, it makes her more sympathetic to thinking about why things are the way that they are, instead of putting her head down and just going with the flow of like, I'm do what everybody else is doing. And I think she sees it more clearly, like, okay, but can't you see how terrible all of this is? Can't you feel how terrible it is?
Yeah. Can't you feel it?
I think as a child, it made her far more aware of her place in the world and the state of the world. I think Joe comes from a family that we don't want to talk about unpleasant things. Like I love her analogy. She said, that's like having a fire in the living room and everyone's in the kitchen and they're like, well, we don't want to talk about it because it's not affecting us right now, but your house is still on fire.
But that literally happens to not Joe's family, because Joe's family gets away before the fire hits the living rooms. But okay, so which I think those two questions really tie well together. Why does Joe react so negatively to Lauren's concerns about being better prepared as a community and as individuals to face crises?
I think
because makes it real.
Yeah, it makes it real. It's easy. It's way easier to pretend that there's not a problem than there is to face a problem. And this is a really, 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 really big problem to face.
Yeah.
That I'm sure if I'd like to think that I would be better, but I think I'd be one of those people that's like, I'm just going to put my head down. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to just do my best. And I'm going to pretend like the whole world isn't ending and that my house isn't going to get burned down. I'm just going to hope that doesn't happen. The world can't possibly be that bad, you know?
Okay. I'm going to get real off that then.
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing now? I don't think so. Are you putting your head down? Because we're in it right now.
Yeah, no, you're right. That this is it was very
I want to so bad. I want to just like put on comforting TV, not listen to the news, listen to music, only knit brioche.
Yeah. It's all about finding a balance for me in that I know I will, at least right now, like some weeks I'm listening to, my news every day and I'm reading all the things and I'm like in it. I'm on Instagram. I'm seeing what people are posting. I'm sharing things. And some weeks I'm like, I can't function like that today. Like it just depends on the day. And I know that, and I go back and forth about it all the time. It's like, well, I should be angry more often. I should be more enraged. I should be resisting. I should be doing this. But at the same time, I am not able to do those things
24/7
if I am not taking care of my own mental health, you know?
And you're not meant, that's how they want people to be. They want people to be so enraged that they can't function and they can't fight back.
Yeah.
I saw someone early on in early February said, look, this is going to be a marathon. You know, in the beginning, we're in let's just sit back with our popcorn and watch and see what happens. And then the horror of what's really happening was not what we expected. But they said, if you got to unplug to pace yourself, you can't consume this all the time. It's not going to be healthy. You're not going to be able to, you got to take time away from it to function, because everyone's sort of trading up. Like if it's okay for you to step back because someone else is going to step up. So it's,
like the penguins.
We're a community.
Yeah.
The penguins.
Like the penguins in Antarctica. Someone else will stand on the outside of the blowing, blasting, frozen.
We'll take turns.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, you don't want to check out too long, but you got to check out sometime. I found that I couldn't keep consuming everything every morning at the same time, or I'm angry all day. And so I'll take like one day every third or fourth day, I just unplug from that and just work with yarn or do yard work or do something productive that's not the same productive,
Yeah.
Because it's a long haul, got to pace ourselves.
I saw somebody, or I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about how intentionally there are 5 trillion things happening that are all bad all at once to inundate you in this.
Yes.
And I can't remember who they were interviewing, but I wish I could remember so I could reference them. But he was saying 100 years ago, you would get 1 piece of mail a month, and that's all the processing your brain had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like your brain isn't meant to work at this level that we are living at, that it's no wonder we're all worn out and that everybody's tired all the time. Like we're not running on the right kind of hardware for this,
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And I'd really love to fully unplug.
Yeah.
Fully.
Yeah.
And yet, I am afraid of getting out of the loop.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a marathon. Go inside the warm circle and someone else will take a lap around the outside.
Yeah.
When I find myself only angry and not able to really think beyond, and it's starting to affect how I snap at people around me, I'm like, okay, I got to step back because I'm not functioning. I'm not doing anything productive with this anger. I'm just angry.
Yeah.
And I can commiserate with other people that are angry, and we can be angry together, but it would be better, but it's not helping. Right.
Yeah.
So, I'll make a note to myself tomorrow that, I save posts to come back to, and sometimes I'll have to make a note to myself tomorrow, come back to that post, if you want to respond or, share or something like that. But, you got to.
Another thing that I have been doing is when I feel overwhelmed like that, is that I don't want to check out completely. Yeah. But I'm just going to pick one thing to be mad about today. And tomorrow I'll be mad about a different thing. But I can't be mad about 10 things at one time. So today I'm mad about X, and tomorrow I'm going to be mad about Y. I'm going to save that for tomorrow. Just one thing a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Even saying, okay, I can be mad at that, but right now I'm not going to feel that right now. That's so helpful. That's very healthy to say, I'm going to be aware of it, but it doesn't have to occupy my space now.
But at the same time,
I
was going to say, but at the same time, you also have to be looped in enough that you feel like you are aware, like you have to be prepared. I'm trying to bring it back around here. Like Lauren has her go bag, and if everybody were smart, they would all be doing the exact same thing that she's doing, because we can see that's obviously the right thing to do, is to be prepared for those situations, because she can see it's coming. But
well, that's great what you've just said. I have a second part of a question, and I have a couple comments. Go ahead, Karin.
Okay. I like what her dad said. Her dad's like, right now you're just making people afraid. That's not helpful.
Don't look down. You don't want to make them look down.
Instead, find a way to teach them without scaring them as to why they need to know this.
Mm-hmm. How... Oh, finish up. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I can't remember if it's her or her mom, or what's her name? Corey says to her, you just looked into the void. All of us grown-ups have seen the void. Was her dad. We know. Yeah. But you're new and you just saw the void and you're like, oh crap. We're aware that the void is there. We know it's bad.
That's such an
important anytime point. We're always balancing on the void, but
yeah.
And that's been true for all of human history.
Yeah.
If you are not the very wealthy, all of humanity has been on the edge of the void, just trying to survive through all of recorded human history.
Yeah.
Except maybe when we were a hunter-gatherer culture, and we really had a system of villages and mutual support.
Communities, and didn't
really last long as far as human history goes. But but yeah, that looking into the void, that moment of her dad being like,
yeah, we been new.
Right, such an important coming of age of where like and children realize,
and at that point he's like,
their parents
know. And at that point he's like, okay, I can tell you're ready now. Now I'm going to show you some things that we have to be prepared in the backyard. You were a child. Now you're not so much a child. So now we can share with you this adulting more, thing that will, one, help her feel a little better, a little more in control, but also, okay, my parents are really aware.
Okay. So, the comment I wanted to make about, you don't want to completely disengage. That's something that you said a moment ago, Katie. So, and we were talking about how this book was maybe hard for all of us to digest from the time I announced it as our book club book to us meeting now, with our personal lives, our lives as members of a global community. Like, later when she's on the road and she is telling them about what she's got in her pack, she laments that because life got so crazy from the time her dad disappeared to the time she needed the pack, she wasn't able to keep it supplied and up to date and fresh as she wishes that it would be now that she needs it. So like that, don't let life take you off the path of preparedness or the path of awareness. I don't know.
Yeah. It's easy to let things slip like that when she's like, well, I'm prepared. It'll be fine. And then life gets busy,
It's like, right. That's something. Go ahead.
It's like right after an earth. Go ahead.
Karin, talk.
Karin.
It's like right after an earthquake. Everyone's making earthquake preparedness packs. And then months, maybe even years go by and it never gets refreshed. Whatever food or emergency stuff you had in there expires. You know what I'm saying? It's out of sight. When the crisis feels like it's passing, it's hard to stay on top, to keep it up. Anyway, that's all.
Well, my current favorite nonfiction writer is Timothy Snyder, author of On Tyranny and On Freedom. And one of the things that sticks out in On Tyranny is relaying the quote of eternal vigilance is the price of liberty.
Yeah.
So like takes a lot of stamina.
It takes so much stamina.
And even our heroine here, Lauren, who's so focused and so single-minded, she slacks in her vigilance. Do you think that Lauren's ideas, including community night watches, learning to fend for themselves in the wild, studying local wild plant life to see if it can be used for food, are excessively paranoid?
No. I think those are probably things when she's like reading the books and like learning and like what she could do and like, natural resources and stuff. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, these are things that I should know.
Right.
And I'm not in the same situation that she's in. It's not as bad as it is in this novel, but it couldn't hurt.
Right. So this book, one of the reasons I chose it is that a commentator on Instagram was saying, like, if you haven't read Braiding Sweetgrass, and if you haven't read Parable of the Sower, and if you haven't read James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time, then you're like not prepared for this time, which I have not read The Fire Next Time. I have it on my to read pile. So I can't speak about that as a book, but like this book complements Braiding Sweetgrass so well. Which I can't think of the author's name. Have you guys read it?
I haven't. I know I should. It's one of those that
It's on my TBR.
It's so good. It's such a pleasure. Like the salve for this book, it is a nonfiction book, but it is so beautiful. And the audiobook is read by the author, Robin Wall Kimmerer is her name. She's just has the sweetest presentation of these beautiful ideas. It's a very comforting book, even though like there's some hard talk in it.
Yeah.
There's some hard stuff, but it's so beautiful. I might reread it soon. So braiding sweetgrass, indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of plants. She is a botanist who is also of indigenous heritage, and she speaks so beautifully about what she has to say. And it speaks to the idea of like being a naturist and looking around you for what the earth offers you and what it gives you to care for your well-being. Lauren's father has pointed out that the community as a whole has trouble thinking far ahead and into such sensitive areas. Do you see ways in which people in today's America are equally unable to think ahead?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine when I elected someone from the Leopards Will Eat Your Face party, and now the leopards want to eat my face.
Who could have saw that coming?
Okay, but this is so far beyond. I mean, I tried to skim through Project 2025, but even this is beyond what I could have.
Braver than I am.
Well, it's a lot of pages.
So much of what's happening
I downloaded the PDF so while it was available because I was afraid they would take it off. Mm-hmm. But no, they don't. They're proud of it. So
yeah, so much of what's happening is outside of the law.
Yeah,
that when you read Project 2025, you can't believe that it would be allowed to stand because it's
against all the rules.
Extremely out.
I
thought it was made up.
If 2025 has taught me anything, it's that I'm giving up on the phrase or like the idea of like I can't believe. Like, of course it is, you know, or like who could have saw this coming? I can't believe this is happening. I never would have thought, like, I'm giving up on that. Like, I'm not going to be surprised by anything anymore. It's like,
nothing's
of course
off the
that's
table
what
now.
they're doing. Like, yeah, that's par for the course. Like, some terrible thing is happening. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, you're following, I think it's chapter 15 of On Tyranny. Be calm when the unspeakable happens.
Yeah. And it's not that it's not enraging or that I am not upset about it. I'm just not surprising it. I'm not going to be surprised anymore.
Exactly. Like, just calm and stay your course.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's chapter 18. Be calm when the unthinkable arrives. Earth Seed. Yeah, so I don't think Americans have any kind of forethought.
Not over half of them.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's not. Because I want you to remember, this is a hopeful thing. Now, granted, a lot of these people are not of the voting age. Probably 1/3 of Americans in the United States are not of voting age.
Sure.
There are, I believe, 384 million people in the United States right now. I don't recall what the final tally was, but it's around 75 million. Only 75 million of those people are
that's fair.
In that camp. It gives me a little tiny bit of hope. Earth Seed can be described as a cold religion since it has such an impersonal God. Is there anything about it that you think could be described as comforting or liberating?
I think it depends on sort of like your history with religion. Like either you have a warm fuzzy relationship with a god or whatever your higher power is, or you have had bad experiences at the hand of people or just general unpleasantness associated with church. So I think if you're coming from a background of being sort of like spurned from religion, I actually see how that could be relatively comforting. Versus if you're used to the idea of like a warm, fuzzy, loving relationship with your creator, then yes, this would seem extremely cold and distant as a
because it's God as a concept or an idea, not as a anthropomorphized entity. Personally, like she says something in there about prayer, And it's a philosophical idea that floats around that prayer is for the prayer. It actually doesn't it changes the person saying the prayer. It doesn't necessarily have an effect.
Right.
And everybody has different feelings about that across all the different belief systems out there. But that speaks to me. So I think that how liberating the idea to think of God as change and then to see how you can affect change. It puts the thing I always come back to, I mean, even just with my beginning knitting students, you can control the yarn. You can't control anything else in your life.
Yeah.
So
you are the boss.
Anything that gives me a modicum of control in an uncontrollable, chaotic world is appealing to me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't see it as distant or cold. I see it as, like you said, encouraging almost.
Yeah. This is a pointed question. Do you believe God has a consciousness or is a thinking being? Or is Earthseed a system of beliefs that appeal to you? What are your feelings about religion? Okay, let's get into it. A little bit more.
Did you know that there is a real religion? There is a real Earthseed religion. They've got a website, .org, based on her books, the Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents, and her unfinished, unpublished Parable of the Trickster.
Oh, I didn't know there was a third.
It just never, it was unfinished. She was working on it. So it's interesting. It says Earthseed is a real religion based on the science fiction of Octavia Butler, especially her books. It's a real thing. God is change, shape God, and we are Earthseed, the life that perceives itself and changing. And the destiny of Earthseed is to take root. GodHasChanged.org, yeah.
Well, if a white guy named L. Ron Hubbard can found a religion,
yeah,
and he's a failed sci-fi author.
We just finished that Aftermath series by Leah Remini, and there are some really interesting similarities, but not, and except this is the Earthseed doesn't seem to. It seems to want to be beneficial, more of a beneficial community, not anything like Scientology, which is toxic and evil.
Right, I think Earthseed's a very humanist religion. Wow, I want to know more about that. Well, I mean, we've all been raised in faiths, and I think I observed that both of you are pretty active in your faiths. Do you think God has a consciousness?
I used to be active in my faith. I have left the church that I grew up in and no longer wish to go back. So I'm going to say no, that I don't believe that God has a consciousness.
I've experienced a lot of toxic behavior, even in institutional church. And while I still go to a church, I am very, very cautious and mindful of everything they say and everything they do and how they live their practice of faith. Our current pastor talks a lot about empathy, and not in the way that is commonly happening right now. He does not consider empathy a sin, but empathy is something is part of living a life based on Christ's teaching, not on man's teaching, and seeing people the way Christ did, not the way institutional evangelism in America particularly has been. It's just, it's not, I feel like sometimes I feel like the traditional church can be more cultish than they will ever admit.
Yeah, I have, I'd like to say, I mean, if it works for you, I have no judgment over whatever you choose is, or not choose, but whatever you feel is right for you, that's 100% great. The one thing I I struggle because I'm not going to say like, do whatever is good for you, because I truly believe that, like Karin, you're kind of saying, like, the core of the teachings of Christ are in contrast. I see a lot of hypocrisy, and those should be the people responsible for guiding their sheep in a way that is in accordance with Christ's teachings. And if they're not, as a community, as a leader of a community, standing up against some of the horrible things that we are seeing in our nation right now, then I'm going to say, like, I'm judging you, you know, like, you could do what's right for you, but also, like, if you held with what you say you hold for, it should be pretty obvious.
Yeah. I mean, our pastor said, "Are you ready to be shook up today?" He goes, "There's a lot of people who go into church who do not follow Christ. And there's a lot of pastors who are not preaching Christ's words. They're not looking at people the way Christ taught. So this whole Christian nationalism is a cult. It is an extremely toxic, dangerous cult that a big chunk of our country has fallen into. And it has nothing to do with Christ's teaching and everything to do with protecting power." Which if you look at Christ's life, it had nothing to, it was not about protecting power ever. It was about caring for everybody. He reached out. He walked with, so for a long time, I feel like for several years, I have not felt comfortable in my faith. And I feel like a lot of how the faith that I followed is very much in contrast, in contradiction, in practice from what Christ's teachings actually are.
Right.
And when I see, and this is why I started, and I found out this a lot to be true in amongst other Christian homeschoolers. You know, that there's a whole lot of a toxic belief. And when I tried to speak up, I was told, "Oh, you're woke. You're one of those social justice warriors." I'm like, okay.
I've never understood
why is that a bad thing?
Right. First of all, woke, like plucking it out and taking it and misusing it. If I had asked them what they thought by that, what they meant by that, they couldn't define it. Right. And like I've never understood social justice warrior as a, like, how is that
bad
insult?
No, yeah, I don't understand that.
Why wouldn't you want?
Oh, you're so pretty today.
Yeah,
you're so smart. You have such intuitive things to say today. Social justice warrior.
I have been called a bleeding heart so many times in my life that I'm like, why is that a bad thing? Why are you teasing me about that? Shouldn't we all be?
Why are you? Why are you such a monster that your heart doesn't bleed?
Right. As a right? Bleeding heart. That is our Lauren. Our Lauren used to. Oh, good job, guys. Our Lauren used to bleed with people. That's how extreme her
sharing blood
empathy was.
Great way to bring it back around.
Beautiful.
I wasn't thinking that way, but thank you. That was a good segue.
Having been raised Catholic, like the Immaculate Heart is an important religious symbol. Like, being a bleeding heart is to be Christ-like. Gosh, good work, guys. The near future of the parable of the sower reflects an America steeped in chaos and relentless poverty and lawlessness. Education is no longer guaranteed for everyone, and violence is rampant. The author has said that she came to this vision of the future by imagining our current woes progressing unchecked to their logical ends. Do you agree or disagree that this is possible future for America? So she wrote this in 1993. That is 32 years ago. I think that we made it a little further and did a little better than she thought we would.
Yeah, it's not distant future. It is current present. Like,
it's happening now.
I liked when there were timestamps and it was like March, 8th, 2025. That's like, well, that's the exact day that I'm listening to this book. Cool, great. What's going on now? Like, this isn't distant future. This is present. And it's like you're saying, I think we're not as bad, but boy, if you extrapolate like how she's thinking about it, like the logical conclusion without any checks and balances to the end, this is 100% the direction that we're heading.
We are teetering above the abyss.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's so realistic.
Yeah.
You know, as someone who I have thought of as a science fiction and fantasy writer, this is so realistic. I didn't get to read the foreword. I had just started to do it this afternoon because I don't like reading forewords before I read a book.
Mm-hmm.
But N.K. Jemisin wrote the foreword to this publication of the book, and she, like, I had just gotten to the part where she tried to read it 3 times, which is what happened to me with Handmaid's Tale. Is it took me 3 times to come at it at different points in my life till I could finally read it in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And so she started to kind of talk back to her younger self of she was a little derisive. Oh, this book's just set in the future. And I haven't gotten to read the rest of her opinions about like her fresh look on it when she approached it the most recent time of reading, which was in 2020. But like, did this woman have a crystal ball going?
I thought so too. I thought, wow, was she a prophet of some sort? This is wild. By the way, my foreword was written by LeVar Burton.
Oh, but you have the same publication, no?
This one.
Okay.
A different printing.
Mine has Octavia, has N.K. Jemisin. But 2 people who I am happy to hear hear their points of view. I can't tell when this one's published, like what printing this one is with N.K. Jemisin, but I picked this book up like a year or 2 ago because I was at Timbre Books and I was just like, I just want to buy something because I try to buy something, you know, every month or 2 from them. And I'm like, well, these are books this and The Parable of the Talents. I intend to read these, so I guess I'll just buy them because they're on my shopping list, you know. And so it sat for a little longer than I like to admit, but I'm glad that you guys read along with me on it. Where do we leave that question? Do you agree or disagree that this is a possible future for America? I think we just agreed that it is the current timeline we're on.
Scary. It's a scary truth.
It is
a scary
possibility.
Like maybe we were able to put it off by 10 years. Maybe it was 8 years. President Barack Obama.
Yeah, that's the
shift.
Yep.
Honestly, have you guys watched the show 0 Day on Netflix yet?
I started watching it. Yeah.
I completely got turned off. Why did someone write this fictional story where someone who Robert De Niro could portray was the winner of the 2008 election?
Yeah.
Why? And so I just couldn't keep going.
I have a tough time with that one. That one's not, probably because it is Robert De Niro. It's, I mean, right. Not him as an actor, but it's,
What was Denzel doing?
Huh?
What was Denzel doing that he couldn't portray this character?
Yeah.
Why are we rewriting history in this fashion? It could have been a fictional president, but why is it an old white guy who won in 2008?
Who's suffering from dementia? I froze or Katie froze?
For a second, I thought you were saying something, Katie.
Oh, I was on mute. I was talking to my cat. Sorry.
In terms of governmental and societal stability, as well as future technological advancements, in what ways do you believe America will change in the next 2 decades? Oh, God.
Good Lord.
Oh, I can't answer that right now.
Do you think
I can't answer
the
that.
second part doesn't make it better? Do you think things will be better or worse than they are now?
I have to continue to be an optimist and say that things will be better. I have to.
I keep hearing people around me say it's a pendulum, right?
Yeah.
So just in case, we are allowed to vote in 4 years or 3 years, and
right now I'm only looking forward to April 1st. I'm only looking forward to April.
The three
elections. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, do I believe that systems are in place that's really going to affect? I mean, that's assuming that they're still playing by rules. So far, they haven't.
He said at the Oval Office that it was a rigged election. Wasn't it a good thing that they rigged this election for me? He said it in the Oval Office.
Okay. Oh my gosh. The things
what's the second half of the question?
Do you think they'll be better or worse than they are now?
Yeah.
I think we just answered that question.
Well, I hope they'll be better. I am afraid they'll be worse.
Yeah. That's fair.
Okay, so now we get to the actual biblical quote in the Bible. Mark 4, chapter 4, verse 30 to 41 tells us the parable of the sower. Hearken, behold, there went out a sower to sow, and it came to pass as he sowed, some fell upon the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up, and some fell on stony ground, where it had not much earth, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But then the sun was up, and it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. And some fell among thorns, and thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. The other fell on good ground, and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased, and brought forth some 30, and some 60, and some 100. And then he said unto them, He hath ears to hear, he that hath ears to hear, let him hear. And when he was alone, they that were about him with the 12 asked him the parable. Okay, so that's Jesus telling the story. Okay. Mm-hmm. He said unto them, Unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God, but unto them that are without, all these things are done in parables, that seeing they may see and not perceive, and hearing they may hear and not understand, lest at any time they should be converted, and their sins should be forgiven. And he said unto them, Know you not this parable? And how then will you know all the parables? The sower soweth the word, and these are they by the wayside, where the word is sown. But when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately, and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. And these are they likewise which are sown to stony ground, who, when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness, and have no root in themselves, and so endure but for time. Afterward, when affliction and persecution ariseth for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. And these are they which sown among thorns, such as heard the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lusts of their things entering in, choke the world, and become unfruitful. And these are they which are sown in good ground, such as hear the word, receive it, and bring forth fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, some 100. Whew. And that is the gospel according to the Lord. So this is clearly the biblical reference that she's making in building her theology. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like, Karin, as you were talking, I was thinking about like what makes each of you special enough, because you are special, that you have the ability to perceive the hypocrisy in your in-group and be able to rise above.
Because I've always been because being on the spectrum, I've always been on the outside. Mm. I view things, for instance, just the way I view the world. When we go to California Adventure and we go to riding the Soren ride, most people look straight ahead. I'm always looking at the periphery to see what else there is. So I'm always trying to find the bigger picture, and I notice things. Now I can miss, if we're walking in the woods, I can miss the bear that's right in front of me because I'm so busy looking at the periphery. But
I just imagine you walking into the bear and going,
yeah. Oh, excuse me, bear.
No, I've had times where I have heard my husband behind me go, Karin, stop. Oh, there's a bear with a mama cub crossing the path. Okay. But at the same time, I see things being always on the outside, never being really part of the center of things. I view things differently. I see things others don't see sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, well, Katie, what would you think is your spot? Because that sort of is like Lauren is made other and outside by her sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that I have something that makes me special enough to not fall under the spell. And I know I have been under the spell at different times of my life. And yet, I don't know, like, was there a wake-up call for you, or?
I don't see what I perceive to be like I think that I've always been, and I know I've always been a very empathetic person since I was like a kid. Like my dad was always not making fun of me, but like teasing me, like I'm the tree hugger of the family. I'm the like the, you know, the bleeding heart. I don't see that as anything that necessarily makes me special, but I think that it makes me more perceptive to things on the outside. Like it's easy to be in your little community bubble or your church community or whatever, and like everything's fine and dandy in here, but what happens outside of here is none of my business, you know? Like those are those people's problems. And I've never been able to look at the world that way. Like I don't believe how we should work as a society, we live in a society, we're a community. So the concerns for other people have always been something that I very easily see, and seems, when I say like I don't think that I'm special, it's just because I feel like everybody should be perceptive of other people, but I have learned as an adult that is not true.
That is your kinship with Lauren as Katie. Well.
I don't think so much that it makes us special. I think others walk around with a deficit that they don't see.
Well, I think you are special. So
thank you.
I'm glad for it. And I'm glad for your influences on me. Like one time, Katie, I hope it's okay to quote this because I'm going to, but you can always cut it out. You know, we were talking about the things going on in the world, and you said something along the lines of like, if my neighbor tells me that something is hurting them, why wouldn't I listen and try to change the thing that's hurting them?
Yeah.
And that rattles around in my head all the time.
It seems like, obvious to me.
Wouldn't I listen?
Right.
But
it's not that like
people.
why wouldn't I listen? That's the first step, but then why wouldn't I do something about it? Like
right?
Yeah.
Like step one is just believing that there is a problem or that this person is in pain or whatever. Step two is then doing something about it, which is the harder step to take.
Yeah.
But it
is.
I am reminded often how more and more people don't even see the first step, that's okay, as it even being there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what relationship do you see between the parable and the novel? Consider Lauren's rejected her father's traditional Baptist teaching before going on to teach Earthseed. It's an interesting twist that the book is titled Parable of the Sower. Why do you think this is? I don't think that she rejected so much as she more deeply perceived and analyzed. Like, I agree. You know, people say I'm a recovering Catholic or I'm a fallen Catholic or just like so many different things. I don't do that anymore because none of it ever sounded right. Like, I'm Catholic. I don't practice my religion, but the person I am, who I generally like these days, wouldn't be who she is if she didn't have the influences that have worked upon me to this point. And so like that's part of my identity, and I'm not going to reject it even though I don't practice the faith anymore.
Yeah, I think that
so I kind of like see that in Lauren.
Yeah, I
wish there could.
I think
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I don't I think that this book is perfectly titled.
Yeah.
Because not only is it like she is the sower of her new, I don't know if you want to call it religion, but then there's, she's very literally a sower. She collects seeds and she knows how to cultivate and garden. But then also, like, what is the point of the parable? It's that you have to have a receptive heart to understand and to live out the message. And without your heart being receptive, it is not going to work. And as an empath, she sees it as like her heart's always open, and finding the people that also have open hearts that are receptive to this message is key. Because like we were just saying, if you shut out the rest of the world and what's going on, then you are not going to be able to move forward. And having an open mind and an open heart is how we make change to make things better.
Well, that's that potential of other people's goodness. Like at the end, as she's gathering more people around her, she's like, I can't remember who she says it about. Maybe it's Tori, where she says, like, there's something good about her, I can tell. Like, there's more to her. She deserves the chance. According to Lauren, the destiny of Earthseed is to take root among the stars. She feels that we must go beyond Mars, other solar systems, living worlds. Are you curious about what's in space? Do you think we should be exploring other worlds? Do you think we should be trying to live on other planets? That's
she kind of lost me on this one part. I feel like we would not explore, but we would exploit. I feel like we don't have a right to exploit other resources when we can't take care of what we have.
True.
Because I do not think about it. I always feel like the best place with the best natural resources for humans to live is Earth. Any place else you go, it costs a lot more. You have to it's much more complicated as opposed to just taking care of what we have.
That's how I feel about Mars. The idea of going and terraforming Mars or the moon is like, you couldn't make it here, so you're just going to leave your trash heap and go and terraform and like have to bend over backwards
until you trash that. And then where are you going to go? Because it's a lot harder there.
But the possibility of humanity spreading beyond our solar system, I mean, as a Star Trek fan, you've got to be behind that.
Yeah, exploration.
Sure, I like the idea of it. But practically speaking,
he saw a place for all of humanity. So that's what I was talking to Kevin about this. Of like, what do you think it's that like maybe they're just such deep Trekkies that they think that like we can't get to the utopia of the Federation unless we have World War III, and like that World War III and the desperateness of World War III. I'm doing Star Trek First Contact right now. Like the desperateness of World War III means that we'll get to the warp engine. And Kevin just shook his head. What's the point?
I personally don't believe in going to outer space in the same way that I personally don't believe that I belong exploring the bottom of the ocean. This is not a place for me. I am not supposed to be there. I'm not going. Like, if they're like, because people will be like, hey, if you were offered, would you go to the moon? I'd be like, hell no, I'm not going to the moon. No, I'm not going to the bottom of the ocean. I'm not supposed to be there. I'm not going. But I do believe... No, that's what I'm saying. Me, personally. But I do believe in the idea of exploration for exploration's sake. And not for exploitation,
100%.
but exploration. And I think if following the principles of Earthseed were part of it, then I don't see it as exploitation as much as I see it as like the next step in human evolution, you know?
Yeah.
What if, and just hear me out, we let the billionaires go to Mars and cut off their way so they can't come back?
Oh, what if? Eat the rich. I love it.
Eat the rich. And then we could still have our resources and they wouldn't be around to exploit it. Right? Or will you think there'd be someone to come up and take their place?
There's always another.
See, that's the thing.
There's always
about,
another.
Like,
you cut off the head and it's a Hydra. You cut off the head, there's 6 more.
Yeah, the thing is that human beings are always looking to have a surplus of power. Or a surplus, a surplus. They're looking for a surplus.
Yeah,
right?
Period.
Like, how much toilet paper did you need
Greeks,
when the shutdown happened?
What was that?
It's as simple as the toilet paper. Yes. How much toilet paper did you really need?
Yeah.
Like, we're really trying to moderate ourselves on eggs, but sometimes it's hard. Like, when you found the egg supplier, Costco or Trader Joe's,
right,
to not hoard the eggs.
Yeah. No, it's a human thing.
Yeah.
Like, even at that price, though, the egg is still a small, easy protein to consume as opposed to something else for breakfast.
Yeah.
But the hubris of humans to take this source of nutrition that is meant for not us, it's like cow's milk. We're not supposed to be eating that. But we're like, well, I'm going to do it anyway because humans can't help themselves.
Make cheese.
Yeah.
That milk's not for you. That egg's not for you. That's supposed to be a baby chicken.
Yep. But
it's not fertilized.
It's good for me. It's good for me. But by like design, it was meant to nourish an embryo.
Yes.
So I think it would be interesting, like you said, Katie, because I used to get very sad when I realized when Star Trek was set. I was like a little girl, and it's like, wait, how many hundreds of years away is this supposed to be?
Yeah, 500 or something.
I'm not going to get to do this at all. That does make me sad that it's not part of my future. Have you started Parable of Talents, Karin?
Or not yet. Okay. I was waiting until after the podcast. Right.
So I'm desperate to start it. I'm sure I will start it tonight. I hope it's a more hopeful part of the telling, that we get a big leap in the future, and that maybe, like, we are seeding, fulfilling the destiny of Earthseed.
I'd like for you to report back if that's the case, because if it's not, I don't want to read another book like this.
Right on. As my choice, it was another one where I was like, oh, what if I died?
Have you guys read the back of the... Have you read the back of it?
To read it to us?
Okay. Just a little taste. Okay, so this one starts in 2032.
Okay, a little further in the future, but still in Lauren's life. Okay.
Lauren Olamina has survived the destruction of her home and family and realized her vision of a peaceful community in Northern California based on her newly founded faith, Earthseed, which, by the way, is like most every Northern California, Oregon commune begins.
Yeah.
The fledgling group provides refuge for outcasts facing persecution after the election of an ultra-conservative president who vows to make America great again. Are you freaking kidding me? When was this written?
No,
it seriously says that.
Trump. I'll look it up while you read.
Oh, I'm like, what? In an increasingly divided and dangerous nation, Lauren's subversive colony, a minority religious faction led by a black woman, becomes a target for President Jarrett's reign of terror and oppression. Years later, Asha Veri...
1998. So she is still the brilliant predictor.
To be 2 years before. To be fair, that was Ronald Reagan's whatever you call it.
Yeah. Quote. That's true. You're right. It is an old saying.
It was stolen by Donald Trump from Ronald Reagan. Right. So I'll give it that.
Which makes way more sense because he doesn't come up with anything original.
I'm not saying it's not poignant.
No, that it would come back, though. Because even then, because it's 1998, that's Bill Clinton time.
Yeah.
The fact that she knew that it was a dangerous phrase that could come back.
Okay. Years later, Asha Veri reads the journals of a mother she never knew, Lauren Olamina. So her daughter reads her. As she searches for answers about her own past, she also struggles to reconcile with the legacy of a mother caught between her duty to her chosen family and her calling to lead humankind into a better future. So parts of it sound extremely scary and relevant. But also there's the daughter trying to deal with, her. So that's Parable of the Talents.
Yeah, I don't know. I might need more time, actually.
I might not be able to read it just yet.
Yeah.
I mean, not yet.
I did find myself wishing that this book had more science fiction spacey to it.
Yes.
But
other than the part about them wanting to go off on another planet felt a little too much like that cult that went out into the desert waiting for the aliens to take them.
Yeah.
But I know that's not, but there was so little of that, barely mentioned or sprinkled, and then she went on to how do we survive here?
Yeah. I understand why it was not part of this, but I would have enjoyed it.
There's the dream. Yeah. There was not, it was more dystopian than science fiction.
Yeah.
Which I like dystopian too, but when it's not hitting too close to home. So
Lauren Olamina says that's the ultimate Earthseed aim and the ultimate human change short of death. It's destiny we'd better pursue if we hope to be anything other than smooth-skinned dinosaurs. Here today, gone tomorrow, our bones mixed with the bones of and ashes of our cities. What do you think about the possibilities of humans becoming extinct? Do you think that this is possible? And how do you think it would happen? Oh, God. Do you think that this is something we have any control over? Okay, first part. Do you think that humans might become extinct? Absolutely.
Yes.
I don't know.
How do you think
I think there's a resilient few that are going to hold out. I think populations will definitely decrease, but for a while. But I don't know if it'll be completely extinct. I mean, look at Europe after the Black Death. I mean, it decimated a lot, but it didn't extinct. That area was not extinct.
Right.
I think about the measles. The measles were considered gone, and they're back.
Oh, maybe there'll be measles. Do you think this is something we have any control over? Yeah.
Yes.
We can still take control of climate change. We can still control infectious diseases if we have buy-in from the population. We can control violence. We can not turn on each other and steal from each other. We can not make synthetic drugs that make it so exciting to catch places.
Those are all things in our social go bag. Those are all things as part of a social go bag that we can control.
Yeah. An important issue in this novel is how well people know one another and when and how to trust people. Lauren struggles between her love for Curtis and her concern that he might not understand or accept both her hyper empathy or her Earthseed ideas. She also tells Harry Balter about her hyper empathy, and he worries that he can't trust her because he feels like he doesn't really know her. How do we learn to trust? How much do we have to know about a person in order to trust that person? What sort of lessons about trust do you think this novel holds for us? Do you think that it's easier or harder to trust people in our current social situation? Okay, step one. How do you learn to trust? I think you have to test the water. Like, she wasn't going to trust Curtis because she trusted the person, because, when you're that age, it's your best friend and your boyfriend. Yeah. So your best friend, you're probably closer and more intimate with than your boyfriend, as far as what you share about your inner self. Because for those fledgling romantic relationships, you're still playing at showing yourself to someone. But your best friend is the person who knows you so well, and she got fully burned. Yeah. So why would she trust Curtis? I think we learn to trust by giving people those little parcels of ourselves and seeing what they do with it.
Yeah, you have to show some vulnerability.
Yeah. Or even like in this world of political division, there's that one guy, I can't think of what his screen name is, but he's got a very round face, and I think he's bald, and I think he's a teacher, and he's always making jokes of well, I think a diverse set of flavorings is a good idea. What do you think about diversity? And you always like,
oh yeah. Testing the waters with a new person. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
I think rainbows are beautiful. What
do you think rainbows are beautiful? Yeah.
Like that's a little parcel. It's like you've revealed your point of view, and you want to see how that person perceives the same thing as you do, and what their natural reaction is. How much do you have to know about a person in order to trust that person? I think there's levels of trust.
There's levels.
Yeah, you don't have to know everything about a person, but
you need to be around a person long enough to observe their behavior, even when you're not next to them. Like in a group, maybe being part of their conversation without actually participating much. You have to listen to things that they say, how they react to things that come up. I mean, I block someone, and then for a while, and he's a friend of my husband's, because we are completely opposite. Even in our faith, his faith is completely self-serving, and he's one of those empathy is a sin and woke is a bad thing. But then I am like, okay, he doesn't know that I don't really like him or what I think about him. So maybe and he realized one day that I wasn't getting his messages, and hey, why aren't we friends? I'm like, okay, I don't really want to get into it right now while we're not friends, but go ahead, friend me. But recently, like yesterday, he was just making me mad because I've been posting things that are very important to me, and he's been posting laughing emojis all over the place. I'm like, and not just one, but on 15 of my posts.
No,
boom. I'm like, okay,
is he a bot? Are you sure he's real?
Not a bot. He's not a bot. I know him. This really is who he is. And I'm like, okay, I don't need to put energy into there's no point talking to you or in talking to him or addressing anything with him. Just block.
Yeah. Straight to prison. No.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. What sort of lessons about trust do you think this novel holds for us? I think this novel shows us, depending on how dire your straits are, how much more vulnerable you need to be. That her vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness.
And at some point, it's right near the end when they're adopting new people into their group, and I can't remember. I think Harry says 2 weeks ago you would have never accepted these people into the group. Why is it different now? And she's like, and I think that just because specifically, what's her name, Tori, and is Tori the daughter and the mother that they find near the end?
Yeah, I can't remember.
They are about as vulnerable as they could possibly be. Why wouldn't you trust that they? Why wouldn't you trust those people? Exactly who they are.
Yeah.
Tori's a little girl who finds Grayson and Doe. So it's Emery and Tori get added in.
Yeah.
And Grayson and Doe. And all 4 of them turn out to be sharers.
Right.
Oh, that's right. All 4 of them are.
Yeah. Yep. But they didn't know each other before. I really found this book, this isn't about trust, but a lesson. I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead.
That's okay.
What lessons do you feel you took away from this novel?
And tell us.
I think that this book is very illuminating because I don't understand why the government's being ravaged the way it is.
Yeah.
And why protections for the most vulnerable people in our communities are being hit first.
Right.
And I am afraid that it is to make a corporate workforce as described in this book.
Yeah.
With the families that were being offered a chance to leave their neighborhood and go into the corporate housing, and their children would be, basically they're selling their freedom for security.
Yes.
Suppose that for the idea of security, not knowing they really were, it was a lose-lose.
and the lack of knowing of our nation's history to understand the trap that's being laid in that plan.
Yeah.
Because it's not like we don't have examples in American history of debt slavery being completely illegal.
And
or the government lying like they did to the indigenous people. Here, we'll buy your land. No, we're not going to buy your land, but now you got to leave. I mean, how many times has our government lied and
Well, it's mine. You signed the agreement. You got to honor the agreement. You're not honoring the agreement. No, but you got to honor the agreement.
We're the government. We don't have to honor anything. I don't know. We have examples that I think people just don't want to. People want to believe that the government has to follow rules, but clearly no one's stopping them.
Yeah. I just don't understand, but I feel like this book sort of was showing us what it's about, is taking away. So like Timothy Snyder's book on freedom, he talks about 5 different types of freedom, and one of them is the freedom of mobility, which she shows in this book. Like, that's the very first freedom that we know they have a restriction on. Like, they cannot leave for fear of their lives. They cannot leave their communities. And then when people exercise mobility, they are taking their lives in their hands. Like, every step is dangerous.
Even trying to go to church in the beginning, they had to, on their bikes, they had to be super careful.
There's that, later in the book, they're talking about jobs you can get, and she says a kind of job, and the person listening says, oh, why would that be a good job, or something like that. And it's, a driver.
That's a driver.
Well, maybe you could get a job as a driver. And Harry, they love white drivers. And Harry's like, oh, well, I don't know how to drive. I'd have to learn how. And Harry's thinking of driving a car. And Emery and Grayson are talking about driving people to work harder.
Yeah, a slave driver.
Yeah.
Quite literally, a driver taking slaves to...
a person whose job it is to, quote, motivate a workforce.
Yeah.
Not about physically moving people. It's about driving them to work harder.
Oh, I completely lost that. I thought he was a driver.
No, it's a slave driver.
Trapped people to...
Nope.
Huh. No,
it's
okay.
Such a beautifully
So he's like basically being the plantation foreman.
Yes. It was such a beautifully written scene, because we're following along just like you expressed, Karin, driving. Because there's a moment when the Mosses leave town, and Lauren talks about the vehicles that take her family away and her belongings.
Yeah.
So we all believe that there could be a transportation job.
Yeah, we're right there with Harry. We're like, okay, yeah, that might be a good job, driving a truck. And then he even says, like, do you really think that that's a job that I would be good at? Like, I'm with him when she's like, that's a job that you could do. And he's like, you believe that that's a job I could do?
Oh, that's another good insight in the group dynamic, that Emery's going to have a long way to go.
Yeah.
To trust Harry.
Yeah. And when they show up at first, they're like, what are you doing with this white man?
Yeah.
Because they've been slaves.
Reserves. Yep. I was thinking about the word truth. And if you like in Doctor Who, do you remember there was a part where, I think it's for Dr. 11, where he's so enraged he goes through time and space, and Doctor becomes like a fearsome word of it doesn't mean what we think of Doctor to mean. And how, I remember that being so jarring, the idea of a word changing so much in its perceived meaning. Is that what's going to happen with truth? Like the word truth?
Yeah. I think it already is.
think about it. The fact that he's got a website called Truth Social where he can spew lies.
Yeah, is
where he can spew lies.
He posted something on Truth Social yesterday. I don't remember what it was. It might have been tariff related.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sent me down that path of thought, is like, how dare you usurp that word? And what will it come out the other side being used as?
Yeah. It's like alternative facts. It's like, what are we talking about? What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
That's not how facts work.
Right. They are
or they are not.
Yeah.
There's no alternative.
You use them to serve you. Like my little pacifier. If there's 383 million people in the United States, they can't. That's only a quarter of them that made this decision.
Yeah.
See, that's my pacifier.
See,
those are facts, and I use them to serve my psyche.
This is not like science fiction where there's an alternative timeline or an alternative reality.
We're in the bad timeline.
Truth is truth, facts is facts. Yeah, we're the bad one.
Yeah, this is the worst timeline.
Yeah. Which is another reason I believe humans could go extinct.
Yeah.
Because we are the dumbest animals on the frickin' planet. And we're just getting dumber.
And if you ask me some days, I'm like, that's fine. We don't need humans. Look what we've done to this world. Like, we ruined it.
They'd
be way better off without us.
Right? Have you watched Flow yet?
No, not yet.
You will love it. It's so good. You have cats in your house.
I know. I have to watch it.
And there's a capybara, but I won't say more. So,
and what was that book series? What was that book series that we read where mankind went extinct except for the few that were kept in cryo chambers? And they made a new town. They all then started to wake up and build and make a town, but they could only stay within the walls because the humans that remained were evolved into different creatures. What was that called?
Okay, I think you spoiled the ending of a Blake Crouch series.
No, I'm talking about the first book. That's all in the first book. It is Blake Crouch, but I can't remember the name of the.
Then I didn't read that one, but Blake Crouch. So I knew it was Blake Crouch.
I thought you read the first one because we talked about it. Well, you might have forgotten. Yeah. It's been a long time. It's been more than a decade.
I know which one you're talking about. They made the series of it. I didn't know that's how it ended.
Was not as good as the books. No, I didn't say the ending. I only said how they came awake and how they survived was by going into cryo chamber. So maybe someone will do that with some people. I don't know, but Pine.
I didn't know that was the Wayward Pines. I did not know that was the twist. But that's my own fault. It's one of those things where it's been out long enough. I could have finished the book.
Knowing it doesn't change the enjoyment of it. But.
Well, in that book, it gets so intense. Like, I don't think I'll ever be able to finish the book or carry on in the series.
Yeah.
Have you read Dark Matter? That's the new series that's coming out that's based on one of his books.
I've read the book.
Okay.
It's been a long time
before the series comes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's always the answer.
Right.
Because even if the series is better, you still have a foundation.
Right. Ironically, I'm trying to read the foundation so that I can watch that series. So I'm sorry, but I'm glad we read this together. So
I am glad we read it because this is a foundational kind of book. So
yeah,
as much as I do not enjoy the dystopian genre, like I wasn't looking forward to reading this book, and I didn't enjoy myself reading it. Like at some point, I'm listening to it in my car, and I said out loud, "I don't want to read this book anymore." But no, it's okay. I'm glad. The point of me saying this is that I am glad that I did read it after the fact, and having talked with both of you through it, I am glad that I read it both. Like, I kind of wish I hadn't read it right now, but I'm also really glad that I read it right now. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
That's how I feel.
I feel the same. Like, yeah. It was an act of discipline to keep coming back to this.
Yeah.
And thank God she was such a talented writer
to make this bearable.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly.
I feel like I want to honor the memory of Octavia Butler by reading her work. By keeping authors like her and her work alive, especially now as they're working to erase voices and the quiet voices. Owning the physical copy of it, I feel like I've got a piece of, band history that maybe for hopes for hopes that for the day when it's no longer a band, when humans come out of the dark ages and there's a copy of my book for someone to find, you know, and say, oh, this was it.
What have you guys read this month?
Oh, I've got to pull that up. Hold on.
Kaity,
a lot. I've been reading a lot.
I haven't. I started a book and have not got that far into it, but it's like I haven't read a physical book in a long time. And so I was like, this month I was experimenting with like unplugging from my phone a little bit and like trying to find the balance of like, I know that I spend too much time on my phone, that it gives me anxiety, but completely stepping away from it causes me anxiety. So I'm like trying to figure out what the balance point is. So I've been trying to like read an actual physical book. Have not gotten very far on that, but I stopped into Smitten one day on like a little self-care walkabout and picked up a little fantasy that I will report back on when I actually do finish it.
Nice. I have not read much either. I finished one book, which was really, really good, though. It's really good. Matt Haig, who's the author of The Midnight Library, he wrote this wild book called The Radleys, and it's about this family of 4, parents and 2 teenagers, and the parents are vampires, one genetically and one converted, and the children do not know that they are vampires too. And they find out when the daughter is attacked by this monstrous other teenager, and it's the unveiling of who they are and how that story unfurls, and it was so good. The Radleys, Matt Haig. I'm finding more and more fun in his books. He's a very good writer. But that's all I read. Okay, Karin, we're ready for your list.
Okay, so I finished Immortal Dark. That's the one with the vampires, and the ending's not very satisfying. The ending makes me feel like they left some stuff, like, I understand how they just sort of tied some things up and they explained some things, but it left just as many questions. But there were some spicy parts that were fun.
All right.
I finished.
Was that a series?
No, it feels like it should be. It feels like there should be a part 2 because they kind of left you hanging with this thing unresolved. You know, the whole question of, you know, yes, she's in a romance and now she's in a romance with her vampire and his mortal enemy to try to control, but the thing that they were trying to look for, they're still looking for. So it feels like there should be a sequel, but I don't know that I would be interested in the sequel. That was by Tigist Gurma, or I'm trying to read this in small print. Alexis Henderson wrote An Academy for Liars, and that was entertaining. That was fun. I finished The Family Experiment by John Mars with 2 R's. That was really interesting. Right now I'm listening to My Sister the Serial Killer.
Oh, is that good? Because that's come up for me many times.
It really is kind of fun. I mean, if having to be the less pretty, unpopular sister who has to clean up after, you know, and hide her sister's, you know, oh, I had a boyfriend, but then he died. Again? Wait a minute. This one was married. You went on a trip. And she's like, well, wait, he died from poisoning. That's not my sister's MO. So maybe she didn't really kill him this time. Oh no, he died. She lied when she said how he died. And
all right.
No, that it is kind of interesting. It's set in Nigeria, in a Nigerian family. So that's really pretty interesting. And there were some other things that I can't seem to access my Libby library, my shelf. It's not doing anything.
Mine did something weird that freaked me out this week because I've been listening to On Freedom with my son, and I went to put it on Monday morning, and it would not let me play it. It said I had to log into my library that I borrowed it from.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to listen to the fun book I was listening to, and that was removed from that library.
Oh.
So once I logged in, everything went back to normal on the Timothy Snyder books, but I don't know what happened with the removed book. That was a little weird and unsettling.
So I saw something really interesting, especially with the audiobooks coming from a library, that they're actually very expensive for libraries to have. Yes. Libraries are having fewer and fewer, and publishers, they're making fewer with them taking stuff off their shelves with banned books. That's also affecting some libraries' digital libraries.
Yeah, so I think that I was affected by that. But I can borrow it somewhere else.
I will tell you, I've noticed that I have not been able to really get anything off of Hoopla in a long, long time because I've been doing more with Libby, but even by the time unless I am on at midnight, 12 minutes after midnight trying to check something out, by the time I wake up in the morning, their number of loans has already been filled up. So I think they just have fewer available at the Oxnard Library, that's where my Hoopla is. So
I think that Hoopla is a very expensive, more expensive digital asset than Libby is. So I really love Libby.
Hey guys, Katie here, just popping in to mention our next book club pick because we didn't catch it in the recording. Karin chose for us a book called Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbard. The back of the book says, Chloe Brown is a chronically ill computer geek with a goal, a plan, a list. After almost, but not quite dying, she comes up with 6 directives to help her, quote, get a life. And she's already completed the first, finally moving out of her glamorous family's mansion. The next items: enjoy a drunken night out, ride a motorcycle, go camping, have meaningless but thoroughly enjoyable sex, travel the world with nothing but hand luggage, and do something bad. But it's not easy being bad, even when you've written step-by-step guidelines on how to do it correctly. What Chloe needs is a teacher, and she knows just the man for the job. Red Morgan is a handyman with tattoos, a motorcycle, and more sex appeal than 10,000 Hollywood heartthrobs. He's also an artist who paints at night and hides his work in the light of day, which Chloe knows because she spies on him occasionally. Just the tiniest bit. But when she enlists Red in her mission to rebel, she learns things about him that no spy session could teach her, like why he clearly resents Chloe's wealthy background, and why he never shows his art to anyone, and what really lies beneath his rough exterior. So if you'd like to join us next month and follow along with us, again, that's Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbard. All right. Well, good times, guys.
Yep.
More. Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, all of our listeners, for following along with us. We hope that you read this book if you haven't. I mean, I hope that you didn't get this far into our podcast without reading it. You should read it first. Should say that at the top, but you know that. But yeah, share your thoughts with us if you have any that you want to share. We are going to go record a little bonus for our Patreon. We're going to chat about some books. And if you want to hear more from us, you can always check out our Patreon at patreon.com/stringsunraveled. You can follow us on Instagram at stringsunraveledpodcast. That's where we will be posting updates, as well as at Strings and Things Studio. And I think that's all of the things that I need to say. So we'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye.